Before anything could be counted, before time was measured, before even the idea of one, there was the idea of nothing, the most powerful idea in human history. Zero is not just a number, but a void, a pause, a philosophy, and in many words, a work of art. A revolutionary symbol so profound that it became starting point of everything. And that revolution began in India. Our journey begins around 3000 BCE in ancient Sumer. These brilliant record keepers were among the first to use place value notation for counting, but they left a blank space to signify nothing. It worked until it didn't. Ambiguity crept in. The Babylonians later filled that gap with two small wedges. Not quite a zero, but a placeholder. The idea of zero was starting to form, though still without the concept of nothingness as a number. In ancient Mesopotamian cuneiform, the Babylonians used two wedges, a specific symbol to represent zero as a placeholder with a number. Before zero became a number, multiple cultures invented placeholders for it. Meanwhile, in ancient India, a land steeped in spiritual and philosophical inquiry, the stage was being set for something radical. Here, the void wasn't feared, it was meditated upon. Just like in Indian art, the space between figures isn't just background, it breathes. It holds silence, rhythm, and divine. A dancer's raised hand, a glance that speaks before the body does. The space around them is alive, just as sacred as the form itself. It's not absence, it's awareness. Indian mathematicians too began to sense the same mystery, that the void is not empty, it holds power. In the language of numbers, they gave it a name, a symbol, a soul. Imagine this. A quiet scribe sits beneath a tree. In front of him, a brittle strip of bark, a sharpened reed, and ink made from soot. He is not a mystic, he is a mathematician. And on this Bakshali manuscript, written nearly 1600 years ago, he draws something that looks so simple, a dot. But that dot is different. It stands where no number does. It means nothing is here. And at the same time, hold this space. This was the first written zero. Not a gap, but a mark for the gap. The difference between silence and deliberate silence. Carbon dating revealed some pages as old as 3rd century CE, possibly the earliest recorded use of a dot to mark zero in practical arithmetic. This meant Indian mathematicians had been using the concept far earlier than previously believed. In merchants' calculations, trade, and daily life. Here, zero was both functional and elegant, like a brushstroke of logic across a merchant's scroll. In 499 CE, the astronomer and mathematician Aryabhatta wrote about a place value number system, using Sanskrit syllables to denote digits. But contrary to popular belief, He did not invent zero. What Aryabhatta gave us was a framework, the scaffolding upon which zero would soon find its home. But the true breakthrough came a century later. In the 7th century CE, a bold mind named Brahmagupta, born in 598 CE in Bhinmal, a town in present-day Rajasthan, India, most likely lived during the Gupta dynasty, a period often referred to as the golden age of ancient Indian mathematics. While working in Ujjain, did something no one had dared before. He defined zero as a number in a book called Brahmasputa Siddhant. He gave it a symbol, and more importantly, he wrote rules. In Brahmasputa Siddhanta, Adhyay 18, Shlok 30, Brahmagupta writes, Rupasya runam, runam rupam, shunyena nihartam shunyam, shunyam shunyena nihartam shunyam. This verse describes basic rules of arithmetic involving positive numbers, roop, negative numbers, run, and zero, shunya. It's not just mathematically foundational, but also poetically framed. But even he struggled with division by zero, calling it 0 divided by 0 is 0, an idea modern math doesn't quite agree with. Still, Brahmagupta's leap was revolutionary. 0 was now not just a placeholder, it was a number. And like a circle in an artist's sketch, it held space, balanced, silent, perfect. Inside the Chaturbhuj temple in Gwalior Fort in India, a wall inscription features the oldest known instance of digit 0, dated to 876 CE. It is part of the number 270 carved on the stone. Centuries later, that same knowledge would echo through stone courtyards at Takht-e-Bahi, a Buddhist monastery carved into the hills of what is now Pakistan. Takht-e-Bahi was located in the center of the Gandhar region in ancient India. Here, monks studied texts, chanted in the morning light, and passed along the ideas they had inherited about numbers, astronomy, balance, and the beauty of void. These scrolls didn't stay still. They were copied, carried, traded by scholars, merchants, wanderers. So, how did zero leave India? The spread of Buddhism, along with India's deep intellectual culture, carried mathematical texts eastward and westward. And from the Indian subcontinent, the idea of zero began its long golden journey. Across Persia, through desert caravans, the knowledge passed on until it reached the heart of the Islamic Golden Age, Bayt al-Hikmah, the house of wisdom in Baghdad. Long before Baghdad became the center of the intellectual world, there stood a great Buddhist monastery in Balkh, Afghanistan, a sanctuary of wisdom known as Nav Vihar. Persians knew it as the name Nav Bahar. At its helm were the Pramukhs, spiritual leaders and scholars. In Sanskrit, Pramukh means the foremost one, the head, the guide, the one who leads learning and prayer. As centuries passed, invasions came, and with them, transformation. Words with Sandhi, a feature unique to Sanskrit, often fused syllables in complex ways. making them difficult to pronounce for non-native speakers. Over time, these pronunciations were gradually simplified. Pramukh, for example, became Parmukh in more colloquial or regional speech. Persians softened the P into a B, and Arabic, with no P at all, took the word further along its journey. Pramukh became Parmukh and then Barmukh, then Barmak, and finally the Barmakids. Al-Barmaki in Arabic. Linguistic drift but cultural continuity. These former Buddhist scholars, now part of the Abbasid court, did not abandon learning. They became its greatest patrons. The Barmakids rose to power under Caliph Harun al-Rashid, turning Baghdad into the beating heart of global knowledge. In their grand library, Bayt al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, they sponsored the translations of Sanskrit texts into Arabic. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy. They brought Indian numerals, including zero, into the Islamic world, and through that bridge into the West. The circle of zero, which once danced across palm leaves in India, now flowed through ink in Baghdad. And all because a word Pramukh became a name, a lineage, a legacy. The Barmakids, descendants of Buddhist abbots, became the silent carriers of zero. The year is 830 CE. Baghdad, the crown of glorious Persian Empire and an important seat of knowledge on the world map. Inside a grand library called Bayt al-Hikmah, appointed translators would sit side by side to collate the best from Indian texts, Greek treatises, Arabic manuscripts. Major leap took place when Islamic scholars began translating Sanskrit works. Here, amidst scrolls and stars, Indian knowledge was translated into Arabic. And in those candlelit halls walked a man named Al-Khwarizmi. Al-Khwarizmi, a Persian scholar, looked at the strange new symbol for nothing and saw a new number which makes everything else work. He understands it, uses it, names it. Around 820 CE, this brilliant mathematician wrote a book on the calculations with Hindu numerals. In it, he explained the decimal system and place value, including zero. He also wrote Al-Jabr wal-Muqabala, the foundational text of algebra. Mathematics became visual, symbolic, almost artistic. His name would later echo through history in a new form, algorithm, and later computers. Zero, once a philosophical dot in a bark, now stands at the heart of logic. Travel forward 400 years, a young Italian merchant named Leonardo of Pisa, later known as Fibonacci, visits North Africa, and there he encountered Arab mathematicians using the Hindu decimal system. He sees its power. No more clunky Roman numerals, no more counting with letters. He brought it back to Europe and wrote Libre Abaci, the book of calculation. It introduced Europe to what is now called Arabic numerals, though in truth their roots were Indian. Resistance was fierce. Merchants preferred Roman numerals. Church officials feared Arabic symbols. But slowly, the zero took hold. And with it came the tools of perspective, scale, and precision. The very techniques that would drive the Renaissance in art. From that vantage point, zero moved, transforming the society, the human thought, and the world. Without zero, there is no vanishing point, no infinity, no depth. The mathematical foundation of zero made possible the concept of vanishing point. Key to perspective drawing in Renaissance. Artists like Brunelleschi, Leonardo, and Raphael used mathematical space to create illusionistic depth, enabled by the idea of a central void, a point of infinity. The vanishing point where all lines converge is a whisper of zero on frescoes. But the story of zero doesn't stop with math or science. Centuries later, an Indian artist, Syed Haidar Raza, sits in his Paris studio. He paints a dot, imagining space, silence, and shadow, to depict not just what is there, but what is missing. Not a void, a Bindu. To him, it is everything. Energy, origin, meditation, a place of stillness so powerful it births the cosmos. On his canvas, zero becomes presence, a black circle that anchors the infinite. It reminds us that silence can be alive. And just like that, a mathematical invention returns to art, full circle. Now step into the computer age. Zoom into a spiral, and deeper still. The image never ends. You have entered the world of fractals. Mathematical art form from repetition, recursion, and zero. Every fractal begins with a simple equation. One that asks, what happens when you divide again and again? Without zero, these loops can't begin. Without limits, there is no beauty. These visuals, so vast, they feel like dreams, exist because someone somewhere once dared to define nothing. Today, the world runs on zero. Every photograph, every message, every rocket launch, built from the binary breath of 0 and 1. Zero is no longer a placeholder, it is the pulse of modern existence. From cave walls to code, from philosophy to pixels, from Bach manuscripts to your phone screen. Zero is not the absence of something, it's the invitation to begin, a silent note, a womb of possibility. It teaches us that sometimes the most powerful thing in the universe is not what we see, but what we create from the space between and explore the universe. The symbol of zero is a circle, perhaps the earliest geometric form humans drew. In art, the circle represents eternity, emptiness, wholeness, ideas mirrored in spiritual and mathematical traditions. In Zen art, an Enso is a circle hand-drawn in one brushstroke to express the Zen mind, which is associated with enlightenment, emptiness, freedom, and the state of no mind. Before it was a number, zero was a shape, drawn, repeated, revered. Modern digital tools run on binary, ones and zeros. Every digital brushstroke, pixel, and animation is built on zero. Without it, there would be no generative art, AI, or visual media today. Zero is the hidden artist behind every digital masterpiece. Zero is not just a number, it's an idea that shaped how we think and how we see. From the perfect circle of a mandala to the infinite vanishing point of a Renaissance painting. Zero made space for art to expand, to deepen, to transform. It gave form to the formless, and in doing so, became the most artistic number of all. At the heart of a black hole is what is called a gravitational singularity, a point where mass is infinite, volume is zero, density becomes infinite, the laws of physics break down. In mathematics, a singularity often represents a point where a function becomes undefined or tends towards infinity. And this occurs when something is divided by zero. So, at the center of a black hole, space-time is theorized to collapse to a zero-dimensional point, an abstract idea that mirrors the paradox of dividing by zero. The event horizon, the boundary of a black hole, is like a threshold between presence and absence. You can't see past it. It's like reaching the edge of meaning, where even light cannot return. This is very similar to zero in philosophy and art, especially in Indian thought. Zero is not just emptiness, it's shunya, a threshold between the material and the immaterial. A liminal space, just like the edge of a black hole. In the ruins of an ancient Khmer temple near Takeo, Cambodia, a stone pillar lay hidden for centuries, withered by time but holding a secret. Inscribed on it was a date, the year 605 of the Saka era. That's 683 CE. And within it, a small circle, not decoration, but a numeral, a zero. This is the famous K127 inscription, the oldest known zero ever carved on stone. Long before paper manuscripts could decay, this zero was set in stone, literally. Its presence undeniable, its meaning profound. Today it rests in the National Museum of Cambodia, a powerful reminder that zero had truly begun to travel from India to the world.